I should start, as a good feminist, with my social location, because that is really important for people to hear. As you know, I am a Protestant woman who has been ordained for almost 30 years. So I am ordained to the ministry. I'm a biblical scholar, so I work with particularly New Testament texts. And I have a leadership role within the denomination in leading our biggest seminary. So I come out of a very particular framework in terms of what I call the partnership of women and men in ministry, which really is a ministry focused on the giftedness of people rather than particular roles that they might play. And so I need to acknowledge that up front. And being Protestant, I've entered into this book cautiously because it is a conversation I'm not familiar with. But really enjoyed reading it to get some insight into how a theology of women can be framed in a particular situation. I wonder if it's really the conversation about the incisive presence of women that have given new life to this. I really wonder if it isn't some of his other statements where he, as I said, wants the shepherd out among the sheep, asking the sheep what they want, trying to really foster a presence among those who have been, if not outcasts, at least down well, decisions are made for them rather than them being asked about the decisions that are being made. So having watched Pope Francis from a distance, he has said so much in terms of marginalized people, the need for the church to get out there and to talk to them, that I think the incisive presence of women has picked up on some of that conversation, that life, that energy that that focus of his has had since he became Pope. You know, the fact that he doesn't live in the papal palace, the fact that he's out there with the people, the fact that he shakes, all of this suggests a Pope that is really, really concerned for everyone. And he's talked about that. So I think it's ignited this, even though he has already set the framework for the conversation around women. The priesthood is not open to women. Ordination is not open. So that's a different conversation from how he's framed the conversation around the poor and the marginalized and that. So I think there's enough of this to give life to this conversation. But I would think there are many women that are a little skeptical when the framework has already been established as to what the limits of that incisive presence is. I guess when I read this book in particular, this book is really framing what for me is a theology of the laity. And it's particularly concerned with the women laity within the Catholic Church. I think it neglects the men laity, although from time to time talks about the masculine genius and what it's all about. But it's a difficult piece because it seems so much based on socially constructed gender roles that are backed up by the text of Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, which can be read very differently than the complementarity theory reads it. So I have a framework for the Catholic Church that I respect and admire, but I have to challenge some of what is in this book in terms of my own particular reading of texts, my own understanding of what I think a lot of the New Testament says about giftedness for ministry. I found that the book set up a lot of binaries that really were extreme. So you had complementarity, but over against it was the radical secular feminist movement. I've been a feminist for 40 years, and I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a minister. I don't see a radical secularism about me, but I'm not in that binary. I couldn't find my place in that particular binary. So that would be an example of if a dialogue is to take place, I think some of the binaries have to break down, and there has to be a recognition that it is more large in scope, the places that women are. I mean, I admired these women because a number of them would speak about the experience out of which they came. And I could see that experience forming where they are now and what they're thinking and their theology of women is. But there are many women with very many different experiences. And I mean, this book is focused on the United States. I'm a Canadian woman. How is it different? And how might the women that I work with in Africa or Asia or Latin America view this? Where might they be on the gamut of a dialogue? So that's one thing. The other is I was intrigued by the practical section of the book. I thought, oh, this is great, you know, the desire for dialogue, the desire for discussion. But as I read more, it was almost the fixed position. This was going to be the conversation rather than asking others to present their understandings. I think I spoke to you earlier about my definition of dialogue. Dialogue means I bring my truth to the conversation, you bring your truth, and we both go away changed. And I appreciated the practical section, but I didn't find that there was a lot of openness to change on the part of the writers of the book. I could be wrong, but it seemed the dialogue was fixed. I guess I go back to what I saw was the elephant in the room in the book, and that was not opening up the question of ordination. Now, I think if that question is opened up, the Catholic Church may still say no, but it will be a conversation that's formed on the experience of other churches. It hasn't been easy. It took 25 years for my denomination to get to the point where it approved the ordination of women. And that was only the beginning. We approved it in '66. I came to seminary in '69, and there was not a lot of openness for someone like me being at seminary. I mean, what did I know? I was 23 years old, wore mini skirts. What does she know about being a minister? So there's been a lot of hard work over the years to show that the partnership can be a reality. And I think it's that struggle over the years, that the way in which women have engaged that question of full partnership of women and men, that could be a gift that we could give to the dialogue. No matter where the Catholic Church goes in opening up ordination to the priesthood, it brings a different piece in, I think, that that's not the experience of Catholic women. And it's not that we're way out on the fringes. We're right in there working hard for our churches. We're committed to Christian faith. We share a lot of the same values for what Jesus has called us to do and called us to be. So we're starting on a very similar ground of being in terms of how we define ourselves. And I think there could be a fruitful conversation, whatever happens in the end. Again, I bring my truth, you bring yours, and we both go away somewhat changed, but not that one has overpowered the other.